Valkyr is one of the best health tanks. But why taking her to avoid Cascade level cap? Because she can. I show you how to run her comfortably. Welcome back, my lovely beans. It is time for another level cap run. But this time, I will take you with me. I will explain to you how to comfortably run to level cap with Valkyr, which setup I would suggest and which options you have to tweak that build a bit for your liking. For the build itself, first things first, we need a way to survive. For that, we are going the classic shield gateway. We are choosing a combination of catalyzing shield with fast deflection and vigilant vigor. Catalyzing shield is reducing your shield to a minimum, and for that sets your shield gate period to a fixed time of 1.33 seconds. In addition, with the recharge mods, which gives you a faster shield recharge and reduces the shield recharge delay, we have in total a minimum shield downtime. Our rolling guard is our safety. When our shield is going down or we have a proc on us that we don't like, we can simply remove it. We're using prime continuity for the base duration of our 2 and for our subsumes. Thanks to the high base armor, we are using Archon battery to have an increased amount of energy and using equilibrium to fill it up. Eternal wars to make sure that we constantly have the higher energy reserves thanks to Archon battery. Eternal war, while active, Warcry's duration is increased by 2 seconds for each melee kill. We're getting our strength from transit fortitude and mold argument. For the aura we are running in this example, corrosive projection. We have multiple options for aura. Corrosive projection itself. Corrosive projection is reducing the armor for all enemies in the mission by 18%. It stacks up additively when multiple teammates are running it. What does it mean for us if we are reducing the armor of an enemy? To make it simply, we're doing more damage to them. Why is that? Because we are lowering the damage reduction of the enemies from 90% to 81.5. That means for us, we're doing 1.85 times more damage to them. Another option is swift momentum. Swift momentum simply means quality of life. Valkyr's damage is based around her combo, so whenever we lose our combo, we will need the time to build it back up to have our best damage output. To prevent that, we can mod for combo duration. That can either happen with the help of arcanes or with the help of mods. Swift momentum is one of them. Plus 30% heavy attack wind-up speed and 6% combo duration. If the heavy attack wind-up speed is beneficial for you, depends on your playstyle, but mainly I focus here on the combo duration. Duration is simply the time you have between 2 enemies before your combo resets to 0. A maybe more obvious choice, but not a choice that I would suggest, is Briefest Bite. Briefest Bite is an option, but not your best in slot, because thanks to catalyzing shield and your recharge mods, you don't need it. In addition to that, we have Argon mods. Argon mods have a secondary part of the ability that 40% energy spent on abilities is converted to shield, but more to that later. Another good choice is Growing Power. Growing Power is simple and gives you overall increased ability strength, which you benefit from. To play perfectly with this setup, you would get your mold argument stacks full, then wait till your Growing Power procs, void dash yourself with Madurai, and then you have the perfect cozy setup to snapshot your form, and hoping that you don't have a violence spawning on you in the next second. If you now would run a Fissure, you get the idea. So it's up to you which aura mod you prefer. For the Excellence slot, you're free to choose. Keep in mind, as long as you are actively using Valkyr's Talons in her 4, she is status immune, so you don't need Sure-footed. You could run either Cunning Drift to get a little bit more range for your 1, or Speed Drift for casting speed and sprint speed. But in general, you're free to choose. In the build part, I am talking about shield gating. But what is shield gating? To break it down, shield gating is the time of invulnerability you have when your shield is fully depleted. The period of invulnerability depends on the amount of shield you have. In the time of invulnerability, you then try to fully recharge your shield. This is affected by recharge mods, the Argon mod sets, Arcane Aegis, and more. Why do we need to fully recharge our shields? Since the time of invulnerability depends on the amount of shield, if we get hit before it's fully recharged, we don't benefit from the whole period again, but only from the amount of shield we had. When talking about my Valkyr build, I personally have 2 subsumes that I prefer, Amamoru and Zada's Whisper. Here I will explain you what is the difference and when you should choose what. Zada's Whisper is the Helmet ability of Zaku. When activated, it inflicts your wielded weapon with void damage. The benefit you gain from Zada's is that the damage bonus counts as a separate damage instance. Why is it relevant for us? When you hit an enemy and depletes its shield, he enters, like us, a shield gate period. A really short one, 0.1 seconds. And this time, only 5% of the dealt damage is actually affecting them. You can counter that by either hitting their weak spots, which is a bit harder with Valkyr Talons, or you're using Zada's. Zada's, since it does count as a second damage instance, is simply ignoring the shield gate mechanic. So you can immediately damage the enemy's health without waiting for the short time to be over. Just for your information, Zada is also really helpful for slamming enemies and will for sure lead to less ragdolling. Amamori is Kume Subsume. When casting, you will surround yourself with charms. These charms have a 50% chance to negate an instance of damage, for that consumes a charm. It either heals you, or if you're fully healed, it gives you shield. which can also regenerate into overshield. It then enters a 3-second cooldown period. This simply helps you to shield gate and is more for a comfortable playstyle suitable. So now the question is, which subsume you should choose. In the end, it depends on your preferred playstyle. With Zardas, you do have a higher damage output and you don't rely as much on priming. So technically, you can kill enemies faster, especially Thrax, since you don't have to hit them multiple times. Downside, it is a bit riskier since you do have to actively shield gate or get the support from your Sentinel. Omamori is simply a support subsume. It does not enhance your direct damage, but it lets you play a more comfortable playstyle. I personally would subsume over the third ability, since the first one is a great way to activate your melee exposure, shield gate even with a slight cooldown, and it is a grouping movement ability. But what to run on the claws? For the Talons, we are running a melee exposure setup. If you're asking why not melee influence, her status chance is too low and her damage output is too high. The chance to actually proc influence is not worth it. For the base damage, we are running prime pressure point. If you prefer condition overload and you can make sure your enemies are consistently primed, go for it. Galvanized Steel for crit chance and crit damage. We are running Blood Rush for more crit chance, Reach for more range. Prime Fever Strike for Toxin for raw damage output. Organ Shatter and Gladiator Might for crit damage. In the last slot, we are running Body Count. Body Count is a mod that gives you 12 seconds of combo duration. It is a quality of life mod. You could also run Gladiator Rush to add a second Gladiator mod to your build, but this only gives you 6 seconds of duration, so that is up to you. If you feel like you don't need the extra combo duration, feel free to swap the mod out. For Archon Shards, the most obvious ones are purple melee crit damage ones. When max energy is over 500, the damage boost doubles. Here a little mark, your energy needs to be at the start of the mission above 500, so minimum 501. Without any influence and without arcane battery. How many you want to invest into your build is up to you. I would say 2 to 3 is the minimum you should put on. In addition to that, I'd suggest at least 1 yellow casting speed, simply to make the casting of your 2 and 4 a little smoother when you have to reset it and make the using of your 1 more comfortable. Outside of that, if you don't have purple shards, you could also use red Archon Shards for melee crit damage, but you lose a lot of extra damage due to the doubling. Our main focus are Valkyr's Talons, but what other weapons to bring? Before we're talking about the weapons I'd suggest to bring, I want to remind you again that the status immunity of a 4 only applies if you're using the Talons, not if you're using any other weapon. When you are in Valkyr's 4, you override your melee with your Talons, but you can still benefit from the mods and the weapon itself. Your best options are Praetor's Cannon and Okina Cannon. Both of these weapons have an evolution that enhances either your parkour velocity or your movement speed. Router as your primary simply gives you the option to build your combo counter fast. Router has a unique trait that each pellet that hits increases the melee combo counter. The amount of combo you gain per shot is based on multi-shot. Here's an example for a pretty simple build. We are using Health, Chamber, and Vigilant Ornaments for multi-shot, Shotgun Barrage and Fire Momentum for the fire rate, Tactical Pump for the reload. Painted Shell is here to reduce the spread of your shots, since it enhances your accuracy. For secondaries, I choose a compressor dexterity setup. Here's an example for a build, but let me tell you, you will not often use it. But how do we prime? Let me tell you, Sentinels are your best friends. They're not only keeping you alive, they also pick up loot for you and prime the enemies to increase your damage. But which one is the best for Valkyr? For a comfortable setup, I would suggest 2 Sentinels, either Texan or Doriga. Doriga is more of an all-rounder choice, Texan if you want to use Zardas, simply because Texan helps you to shield gate, easier time to stay alive. Texan's own mod is called Molecular Conversion. Blast enemies within 10 meters, converting 200 damage into shields for the Warframe. If you pair this with Guardian, Sentinel boosts owner's shield by 100%. When it runs out, you have a pretty solid base. In addition to this, we are running Primed Regen for an increased recovery rate on our Sentinel, calculated redirection for its own shield. Animal Instinct is a personal preference if you want to use it or not. This shows your loot and enemies on your minimap in a bigger radius. Synth Deconstruct is helping you with the energy economy. Enemies injured by the companion have a 25% chance to drop a health orb when killed. This together with our Equilibrium guarantees us a good energy regeneration. Manifold Bond is there to apply the Sentinel's weapon status effects to enemies thanks to the Precept mods. In addition to that, it also lowers its recovery time whenever we kill an enemy that is affected with 3 or more status effects. Your build might slightly vary depending on the Sentinel weapon you're using. If you have a weapon that has enough crit chance, I would highly suggest to use Tenacious Bond. With a crit chance above 50%, you gain a 1.2 times final crit multiplier that applies to Valkyr's Talons. For this, you could either use Verglas with a crit chance ribbon or Burst Laser Prime. The Riga will carry you regards priming and CC. The amount of elements the Riga can proc and cold proc your enemies should be your dream. The combination of Arc Coil and Manifold Bond allows the Riga to consistently prime enemies with the equipped elements of its weapon. Once again, the build might slightly vary depending on the Sentinel weapon. Here an example for pure priming with Tazikar, and here an example for Burst Laser Prime and Verglass setup. For the Verglass Prime setup, once again we are adding Tenacious Bond to get the extra crit. In my second setup, I'm using Duplex Bond. This mod clones your Sentinel every time when 100% energy is spent. You can have up to 3 clones, but these can't use abilities. Clones are attacking with the weapon and drawing aggro. It is a nice add-on. Just keep in mind they don't use any of the Bond mod's abilities. When talking about Sentinels, we should also talk about the weapons. For your choice of Sentinel weapons, it once again depends on your playstyle and what your outcome is. If you need consistent priming but you're not relying on the damage output or buff, it's a Tazikar. If you need a bit more damage thanks to Tenacious Bond, but also need Argon mods for shield gating, Burst Laser Prime. If you want to have priming, damage and damage buff, Verglass Prime. Downside here, this setup requires a Riven to reach the needed crit rate for Tenacious Bond. For Burst Laser Prime, I choose a Viral Magnetic setup. The biggest benefit of Burst Laser Prime is that it can fit Argomods. This is only needed if you can't fit them on your secondary, because they don't double dip. I'm running 2 Argomods simply to have the amount of converted shield higher. Agasika is especially nice since it gives you status duration, so the applied status on enemies lasts longer. My Riven is a crit chance, status duration and status chance Riven. For Burst Laser, you don't need a crit chance Riven to hit the point for Tenacious Bond. Prime Pistol Gambit is enough, which you would add here for the setup if you don't have a similar Riven. Tazikar is in my opinion the best priming Sentinel weapon as a pure primer in the game. I choose the Corrosive Cold Magnetic setup. Code simply for the CC, with Shivering Contagion to spread the status effect even more. Blitz Chamber and Vigilant Armaments for multi-shot, and Fast Hands for the reload for less downtime of my Sentinel regarding active attacking. Magnetic Capacity applies an extra status effect and has as a secondary effect a bigger magazine capacity. My Riven is a cold, fire rate and status chance Riven. If you don't have a similar one, you would run Rifle Aptitude for a higher status chance and might want to consider to swap one of the multi-shot mods out for a fire rate mod like Shred, Speed Trigger or Via Acceleration. Verglass is one of the most popular Sentinel weapons in the game. You have a high status chance and a high damage output. But to be able to trigger Tenacious Bond with Verglass Prime, you do need a Riven with crit chance in addition to point strike. Besides that, you can choose if you want to run a viral or a corrosive setup. I am showing you here a corrosive setup with Shivering Contagion for a higher status effect spread. Besides that, I'm running Radiated Reload for the reload speed and an additional element. Which Sentinel is your favorite? Now you should be prepared to run your Valkyr to avoid Cascade level cap. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on Twitch.